Good morning, my beautiful babes and babettes. I'm your resident active advocate, and today I would like to talk to you about disability and transportation, but specifically about a transportation service we have in the city where I live called paratransit. Now, under the AODA and also under some other provincial laws throughout Canada, I know that transportation is a mandatory service and applies to people with disabilities, namely people who are not able to drive their own car for various reasons, or who may not be able to access the regular sort of public transit. Like if you are a wheelchair user and the buses in your city are not themselves accessible, then if you can't get on a quote ordinary bus, you will be using paratransit or its equivalent. Now, where I live, paratransit is this is basically their ad. Paratransit is a shared ride service, right? Which means that you and a number of other people will be sharing the same bus and be taken to your various locations. The very convenient thing is that they do drop you off at the door to your house, or at least at the end of your driveway anyway. So that is the good part of this service, is that it's a door-to-door transportation service. So that's the good part. The bad part, plural, are as follows. Now, you have to call them 3 days in advance to book a ride, no matter where you're going. And that can apply to doctor's appointments, that can apply to just going grocery shopping, any odd thing that you have to leave the house to do. Okay, so if you want to get groceries on Saturday afternoon, you have to call them on Wednesday morning starting at 7 a.m. and book that ride. They are allowed to be up to 15 minutes early and up to half an hour late. Because it is a shared ride service and because some rides take longer than others, because it does take a while to load a wheelchair on to the bus and to put it in the safety properly. That takes a while, but it could also be, traffic holdups, or you get stuck at a train, anything like that. All these things that slow people down that they never fully think about. You have to factor that into when you are going to book your time. So when I used paratransit to get to and from my classes in university, let's say I had an 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. rather class, because my university started everything on the half hour. If I had to be there in the classroom for 8:30, I would book my ride for 7:30 in the morning to give myself that hour's space to get there on time. Sometimes I would not even make that. There was a case I remember, and thankfully it was with my favorite professor in university. I showed up probably a good 15-20 minutes late for class, and I'm always there. I always had very good attendance. And he just looks at me and goes, "I thought you weren't coming." And I said to him, "No effing paratransit," right? But with para as well, you have to make yourself visible to the driver. If they don't know where you are, they will drive by you. And the problem with paratransit is that you have 5 minutes to make that ride. So if you have a mobility disability, if you've broken your leg, or any kind of injury that would slow you down, you still have 5 minutes to get to that vehicle. They will usually park in the same spot for the same location. So dropping me off at one of the buildings for my classes, they would always drop me off at like the back of the building, right? Because that's where the biggest parking lot was for them to get into. But There was a point at which they put up a security gate between the road and that parking lot, and paratransit drivers were not made aware of this. So once they saw that that barricade was there, they could not then go into the parking lot. So this happened to me a few times. Rather than stopping, they would just keep going and either assume I was at another location or just say, nope, we can't get her today. The problem with missing your ride is that they have a 3 strikes you're out policy. Not you're out permanently, but if you get 3 missed rides, and that's going to or from your location, if you get 3 strikes, you're off the service for a month, regardless of whether those strikes are your fault. I'm going to give an interesting example of something that happened when I was in university. There had been renovations done to a parking lot where they dropped me off outside of that parking lot that morning. But that night, when I'm standing in the same place where they had dropped me off, I saw 3 different paratransit buses go by me and just keep driving down the road. I stood there waving my hands at them, looking like an idiot, and they just kept going. So I called their base twice. The first time, the person on the other end said, "Oh yeah, no, we'll be right there. We're only about 10 minutes away." So I wait 10 minutes. I don't see anyone. So I wait another 10 minutes and I see another vehicle drive by me. And I start putting 2 and 2 together. What if they don't know where I am? But how could they not know where I am? I am in plain sight. I'm standing on the sidewalk on the side of the road. So I called base again and they said, "Oh, we're down at the other parking lot. Where are you?" So the other parking lot to which they were referring was a quarter of the way down the block. So I start walking, and the guy pulls away and drives by me in the other direction. I start waving my arms in the air again. They keep going. So I called base again, and they said, "Oh, we couldn't find you, so we left." I took a cab home that night, and I had a strike on my record. I knew I had a strike on my record because, again, regardless of whether it is your fault, these strikes are put on your record. I called the middle management guy, and he said, "You should have known that we did not pick up at that parking lot." I told him, "I was dropped off at that parking lot this morning. What happened?" He said, "We don't drive to that parking lot." I said to him, "Okay, I can't see through buildings. I didn't know where you guys were, so I want this strike removed from my record." And he said no. He said no, because I should have known the rules. I should have known that they didn't come to that parking lot anymore. And I basically told him that that was BS. I raised quite a bit of a stink about it. And he basically told me to F off, not in so many words. So I called the step below him, the woman just immediately below his position in the company. And I left a message with her telling her how rude this man had been to me. Basically told me to F off because I could literally not help what happened. And he called me back before I got home from class the next day, left a message on my machine and said, "Oh, I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. Of course your strike has been removed. Of course it has." So that was the end of that incident. But the main point of this is that though we are entitled to transportation, it is on us to ensure that it is done correctly. And I know that this is the basic idea behind all bureaucracies, so it's not just us, okay? I'm not just complaining on behalf of the disability community, okay? This is how bureaucracy works. And I get that. But it's still super duper frustrating when you have no other way of getting home that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. Because I'm not actually able to take a mainstream bus, and there are a lot of other people like me who can't. So instead, I pay, $20 to get home with a taxi, which to me is BS. So the two benefits to paratransit: A, it costs normal bus fare, and B, it drops off at your location, door to door. Everything else is pretty much a disadvantage. I have been left behind in the snow, waiting for an hour and a half in the dark at the back of my college, going, I really hope there's no one else out here with me. That time was scary. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that time was scary. There have been more hits than misses, though, so to their credit, they don't have a spotless record with me, but I'll give them a B plus for effort. So at least where I live, that's basically the situation, and that's pretty much the situation for everyone. Everyone complains about this service who takes it. I've heard of other places in Canada where it is worse. Like in rural Vancouver, you have to call a week ahead, and they will give you one time, take it or leave it, even if you're just going to get groceries. So they could say, okay, we will be out to your community at 7 a.m., be ready. So there's that. I'm not going to say I have it the worst. I'm not going to say I have it the best. I'm probably somewhere in the lower middle range, but if you've had similar experiences with your public transportation, please let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to vent with y'all. And that is my video for today. Tomorrow, I will be talking about another thing I made a boo-boo on: access to outdoor spaces. There's going to be more detail about that tomorrow. All right. Thank you very much for your lovely attention and participation, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye! Mwah!